Two last questions. All right, so I'll give you an opportunity to ask the question now.
I realize that most of the questions have been directed to Santino, so I will direct mine to the Honorable. There is a proverb that says that when you drink the water, you don't forget those that dug the well. After the civil, I think South Sudan is the baby of Africa and the newest country we have, so we all have a role to sort of protect that baby to make sure that it grows to mature adulthood. As the process of nation building continues, I just want to ask the Honorable what the government, because you're in the government, what the government is doing to make sure that the home base is very conducive for those who would like to come back to sort of help in that nation building. Because it's okay for us to, we're writing books, we're doing all things here, but we've got to remember where we all came from. A lot is happening there. I was reading recently that I think there's about less than 20 secondary schools there in South Sudan at the moment, and there's still a challenge in education and literacy amongst the people. Aids are important, but aids don't solve problems. I think people do. So if people have to go back and we have to solve our own problems, we're here, we're getting all these things, we have the experience, and we're learning so much, and I think we hold it a duty to give back. I was listening to you, I was impressed about your insight into those things, but how is the home front? Because it's okay to say, oh, let's go back and rebuild it, but is it conducive for people, and what are you doing as a government or as a contribution from your part to see that that's the home base is conducive for people who want to go back?
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very good question. Actually, back at home, it's an uphill task. The current South Sudan, the independent South Sudan, is made up of a conglomeration of so many ideologies. There were those of us who were in the war. We believe we shut the enemy out, and therefore we achieved the liberation. And therefore we have every right to enjoy the benefits of statehood. That's one perception. We have another group that, like yourselves, you came abroad, you gained the skills, you want to go back to show what you have gained, because you tell us, you those who fought the war, you don't have the skills. Yes, you fought the war, but you must retire and let us do the development. We say no. There is the other group that was with the enemy. They think these rebels have come with a mentality of controlling everything. Their Bush style, the guerrilla style of management, is what they have brought to the government. That is not the way the government works. That we can't tolerate. So you can just imagine what our president is going through. It is a real nightmare. And it will take time to understand, and that's why he always sends an olive branch. The other part of it is that we, all of us, the type of education we received from name it, from the missionaries, from the British administration, up to when the British left. I can call myself, I'm one of the lucky few that got good education and had a good foundation. But the rest who were being Arabized by force, you can imagine what they went through. The education we received was to become a government executive and ride in a big car, and you feel big. But there was no business training whatsoever. So everybody, including me, my outlook is, especially at this age, if I retire now, where do I retire to? I have nothing to go and live on. So I must be in the government, regardless of whether I have something in my head or not. So you can imagine the challenges we are facing. So what is the option? What is the best way out? The best way out, and has been told to us in black and white by our development partners, the aid agencies, the UN, those who supported us, in any other way other than through dialogue. Give service delivery to prevent deprivation. And then from that, development will come. Development cannot come if there is no peace in the country. Those are the priorities the government is working on at the moment. And as I said before, the message I'm giving, in order to support what the government is doing on the ground, your support is required as well. You, the South Sudanese who are here, you are needed back home. Yes, I know this. The first thing that will hit you is malaria. And then your own life will be threatened by insecurity. You can't live in the village because there are raids every day. You have to tolerate that and you have to risk it. By taking some of your friends through dialogue, create a consensus here. You could teach us, we those who came with a guerrilla mentality, you could teach us a different way of doing things for the better of South Sudan. That's the only way I can answer your question, that we have a lot of challenges and it is really difficult.
Give a chance for just one last question. And Dr. Korwell had his hand up before, so I'll give Dr. Korwell a chance to ask the question.
A lot of your work, and it's great to meet you today. Your work is not really related to what I did. I was involved in teaching a little bit about parenting in Tanet or City of Windham through Delta Jangde. My question is related to health, children health. The question is, in your research, are you looking at the impact of African food transition to Australia and its health along the line at the end? Thank you. Really what we impose for children online.
Thank you very much, Dr. Quirk, for that question. For university, because I think that is where you finish your PhD, right? And you specialize in a very important area. Again, before I answer that question, always as a community, as a society, we have to have people in everything, really in everything, because any society cannot be built if we are all, let's say, journalists, and there are no nutrition, there are no whatever, different profession. We have to be in every profession so that we can help the society and be able to pay back to the society that has did this to bring us here. So I worked for the last few years where I moved to another position before I came here as a specialist advocate with Health Commission New Zealand. When I was working as a counselor, we found out that there were a lot of issues, and we know that the so-called mental health sometimes is very hard for our people to understand. They think that if you have a mental health problem, you are crazy and mad, you are on the street, that's when they recognize that this person has a mental health problem. And the first thing that we have to challenge with that fact so that people can understand actually, mental problem can be like any other disease. When you are sick, go to see the doctor, you get the medicine, the same. It's not a curse like the way people used to believe. It's like anything else. So when this problem started within the family, and in which it involves basic stuff, let's say control, and some parents are very restrictive of their children's activities. So because children, their brain is still developing, they don't understand why am I being subjected to all of this? Why am I being controlled while my friends are allowed? Is it because I'm different? They will reflect a lot, and they will think a lot and come up with a lot of things that they can. So children end up having mental health problems. And transitioning into the new society is very, very important, because if we got it wrong, because that is the foundation. So it's like any other foundation, like this building cannot stand without this basic foundation. So when you come to a new society, you actually need a development. When I read through the literature and the programs of different countries about refugees that come to the new, much really that talk about the ongoing program. Like for example, in New Zealand, we have 6-week program. When refugees come, they are put in the refugee center for 6 weeks, where they get the medical orientation, basic English, and all of that. And they are released to society. Imagine, those 6 weeks sound like enough, 1 month and a half, but they're not enough. At the end of the day, they even forgot about everything. that was taught to them, because when you come to a new country, you are overwhelmed, you are very happy, you think that you achieve, it's a honeymoon period actually. But after a few months or a year, you realize the difference, because isolation kick in, family members are not around, and some crazy people may, may be racist toward you and all those kind of stuff, because in any given society, it's not everyone is welcoming. There are some who will, because of your whatever skin color, where you come from, they will abuse you. And if you take it personally, it will affect you. The same thing, children, sometimes when they are called names because of being different, they end up with very serious issues. They start fighting. Then the school said they have behavioral problems. They get expelled. And actually, they didn't plan to be bad, but because they are actually being abused and bullied by others because of being different. So again, this transition is very hard, but what it needs to happen is people need to work together. The parent, the community, to work together, because the problem that we have in this society sometimes is that we have so many fragmented organizations. There is social service there, mental health there, and so many others. They're not working together. Even become depressed because of different agencies and people coming to see them, try to solve the problem. We said you have to work together for this family, because they don't even understand what you are doing, because the culture where they come from, we don't have all of these services around. Only they go to elders, community leaders to ask for it. Later. Thank you.